Jose Trevino, bless his little 5-foot heart, is making a case to remain catcher number 1 when Tyler Stephenson comes back later this week. We're going to tell you how the Reds can make that work on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We've been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons, and we are glad that you're alongside us here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about later on in today's show why the Reds need to win this weekend series against the Washington Nationals, and it's all about the big picture of the first half of the season. We'll tell you more about that later on. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we want to talk about the tale of pitching before a rain delay and pitching after a rain delay and the differences that it made in the big-time win that the Reds got on Thursday. But we want to start with the big-time hitting. Speaking of big-time hitting of Jose Trevino and a couple of other bats on Thursday, and why Trevino is making that decision at catcher a little bit more difficult for the Reds, because Tyler Stephenson is pretty much back. It hasn't been officially reported yet, Steve. It's pretty much the unofficial report that everybody knows he's back on Friday. But with the way that Jose Trevino and Austin Wynns included in this conversation, with the way that they have played, the Reds got to keep 3 catchers on the roster.
Right. But not like they tried before. I want to be clear. Look, I am not saying that Tyler Stephenson has lost his job and is now catcher number 2 and is going to sit the bench. Absolutely not. No. I think the way that Jose Trevino is playing in 68 at-bats, Jeff, 324 batting average, a 365 on base percentage. He's got an OPS of 909, hit his 3rd home run of the season yesterday. The guy is playing really, really well. He's the hottest hitting catcher in baseball right now. You keep running that back until it changes. Will he continue to hit 325 all season? I don't think so. It would be great, but I don't think so. But while
it'd be a lot of fun.
Right. While he keeps playing. You put Tyler Stephenson at DH. And if Trevino keeps prolonging this, you consider Tyler Stephenson limited amount at first base. He can play over there, shouldn't play over there very much. But I like Tyler Stephenson as a DH, at least coming back for the first 2 or 3 weeks, just to get back in the groove and see the major league pitching without the pressures of catching. Also, let him work his way back into game shape. We all know, we've all heard from players that will tell you the rehab stuff is different than playing in a major league game, just like spring training games are different than playing in a major league game. This will give Tyler Stephenson time to get back into it. We've seen Spencer Steer in the field at first base now. We saw Spencer Steer looking like his bat is starting to come around. It gives the Reds a lot of options. And you talk about Austin Wynns, who's another guy that's kind of playing above his head. But as long as he is, don't fix what ain't broken, Jeff. Now, the catching position's working.
Right. And it's something that Terry Francona said in spring training, where he said, we're merit-based. If you earned it, you got it. And there is nothing about the performances of Jose Trevino and Austin Wynns that says this ain't real. I don't know that Austin Wynns is going to continue at this clip, but as long as he is, he's got to be up here, and he's got to be a part of this team, and he's got to be a part of this lineup on a reasonable basis. I think that Terry Francona has also done this thing that David Bell failed to do. Whenever a guy is hot, you don't change his situation. You don't say, well, he's hitting 400, so now he plays every day, or because he's a rotational guy in Austin Wynns, or he's hitting low in the lineup, but he's killing it like Jose Trevino. He's going to bat 3rd. Something like that. It felt like David Bell did that a lot. We're not going to see that with Jose Trevino. We're not going to see that with Austin Wynns. And that's just because Terry Francona understands this. When you're working, let's keep what's working where it's working. And I think that where it's working is the current rotation that they have. I think you work Tyler Stephenson into that catching rotation slowly. And this is a luxury. This is not a problem. This is a good problem that the Reds have, because Tyler Stephenson can work on his bat, and you get that bat right, and you add it to this lineup, like you mentioned with Steer getting right, Trevino hitting well, Santiago Espinal, when you need him, he's hitting well. I mean, you've got Gavin Lux, who's been very consistent. He's an on-base machine. Ellie De La Cruz is hitting well. TJ Friedel's hitting well. And oh, by the way, Matt McClain is in a huge, deep slump, and this lineup is still going. Because when they get McClain going right, this lineup might be really interesting, Steve.
No, it would be more than interesting. It's going to be on fire. Look, let's quantify some of what you just said. Austin Wynns, who is playing about a third of the time right now, Jeff. Jose Trevino is getting 2/3 of the playing time. Austin Wynns is getting the other third. In that third, he is really making the most of his time. Slash line, Jeff, 394, 444, 697. I want to do that again because I don't, maybe I stuttered.
He went 0 for the other day and he's still doing this.
444, 697, right? So, and then you started rattling off all those other names. And let's do this old school. We're going to roll it back. We're going to run it back to the 70s and the 80s, Jeff. We're going to talk about batting average. TJ Friedel at the top of the order is hitting 274 right now. That is really good day and age. Ellie De La Cruz also hitting 274 and leads the league bases, in case you didn't know that. Noelvi Marte, 328. Santiago Espinal in limited duty, 324. Gavin Lux at 17. Jose Trevino at 24. These guys are hitting the baseball. This and guys that we weren't counting on, guys that we were like, I don't know. All of those guys are hitting the ball. It is phenomenal right now that when you consider what this Cincinnati Reds team has gone through in the month of April, we have now reached the month of May with some of the horrid performances that are behind us now. We have reached the month of May, 2 games over 500 and only 2 games back in the National League Central. This team is in the right spot right now.
Yeah, like the way that they have played and then the different things, the whole 1-0 ball games. I remember that was a big point in the first game of the doubleheader on Wednesday before Alexis Diaz did his thing. Everybody's like, they're not going to lose another 1-0 game, are they? Oh, come on. And Alexis Diaz was like, no, don't worry. They're not.
Don't worry. I got it. Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. But with all of that being said, and with everything that the Cubs have done, the Cubs have played fantastic against teams above 500. The Cubs just beat Paul Skeens. And dare I say anything good about the Chicago Cubs, they look kind of good. And the Reds are right there with them. I think that means that at least right now, the Reds are looking pretty good. And I think that a big part of that has been their catching situation. As much as we thought it would be a problem, as much as we worried about the loss of Tyler Stephenson early on this season and said, just tread water with it. Let's see if you can survive, get him back, get him going. Jose Trevino and Austin Wynns have been saying, hold my beer, because we got this. And I think that they need to continue to be rewarded until Austin Wynns maybe falls off a cliff a little bit or something like that, comes back down to earth a little bit. Maybe then we see him move down to Louisville. But quite frankly, Steve, he could be a very valuable pinch hitter in a clutch situation right now, because let's talk about the other options that the Reds have as far as pinch hitters go. None of them have been as good as Austin Wynns so far this season.
Yeah, and just for a second, let me talk about my guy, Santiago Espinal, who is making me look like a genius when we talked about him in the last offseason. You know, you remember you argued with me about paying. He is earning every bit of his money right now. 313, 371, 375. He has an OPS plus of 106 in 22 games played. He's doing really well. And I think
you need a base hit, he's going to get you one.
He's your guy. You know, I'm really happy with the role players leaning into their roles right now, Jeff, leaning into doing what the team is asking them to do. And speaking of that, just like the hitters, there are some pitchers on this roster in new roles that are really leaning into it. And coming up in just a minute, we're going to talk about the pre-rain and the post-rain pitchers and how a guy named Graham Ashcraft saved the day.
Did you know that your Amazon Fire TV is also an Xbox? That's right. All you need is the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and a compatible controller connected to your Fire TV, and you can play your favorite Xbox games through your Fire TV on any television that you've got it hooked into. So seriously, you can turn the TV in front of you into your home entertainment hub. We're talking about your favorite movies, your favorite TV shows, and now your favorite Xbox video games like the Halo Master Chief Collection, like Starfield, like Call of Duty Black Ops 6. You can play it all on your television. You don't need a console. You just need a controller. You got to check this out today. Go on over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On and get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controllers are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube.
Make sure you are subscribed. That way you don't miss any of the great Reds content we've got coming your way. Jeff and I in your feeds Monday through Friday, each and every day of the week. We've got Tim Daniel after every single game, 162 postcasts for you in the feed, both audio and here on YouTube, and some special stuff along the way, and some interviews coming throughout the season, and just lots of surprises as well. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of it. All right, Jeff, we talked about the hitters. And when we look at the way that the pitching staff performed in yesterday's game, Andrew Abbott did not have his best stuff. Now, it wasn't horrible. I mean, I'm not trying to call him out for a bad performance, Jeff, but 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 run allowed, struck out 3, but walked 4. He was working a little bit. He was laboring a little bit. And I was frankly kind of concerned that the wheels were getting ready to come off. And then Mother Nature intervened. We got the rain, we got the tarp. And that kind of forced Terry Francona's hand a little bit. And I think Terry handled this really, really well coming out of the rain delay.
Yeah, it was something that you wondered. It was a little bit over an hour's worth of a rain delay. Usually, you don't see starting pitchers continue after that long of a delay. And to Terry Francona's credit, he did not ask Andrew Abbott to do that, because you're right. While the box score bears out 1 run, 3 hits, people see that and they're like, well, it's not that bad of an outing. It's the 4 walks that worried me. He was throwing a lot of pitches. But out of the rain delay, they go to Graham Ashcraft. And even Terry Francona acknowledged in his post-game interview where he was just like, we thought best case scenario, we were getting 3 innings out of Graham Ashcraft. Boy, did they get 3 innings. They got 3 perfect 9 up, 9 down innings. And I think that Graham Ashcraft summarized this best, because they were asking him, when did you find out that you were going to be pitching out of the rain delay? And did you change your routine to get ready for it?
I mean, it was right out of the gate. They told me, after they knew it was going to be a little bit over an hour, they were like, hey, Abbott's done. You're going to be our guy going once we get going. And I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to go and do a whole starter routine, because that's not what I am anymore. I'm a bullpen guy, so I'm going to go out and treat it like I'm coming out of the pen. And so, it was just staying hot, staying loose, and being ready for the game.
I love Graham Ashcraft, man.
I'm a bullpen guy. That's what I want to hear from him. That was the right answer. Now, do I believe he was just trying to give the right answer, or if that's what he thinks? I think that's kind of what he thinks. I think he's getting there. The more and more his mentality gets to be, I can be this nasty reliever out of the bullpen, the more he leans into that, the better he's going to be. And you're right. He was really, really good. 3 innings, 4 Ks into 3 innings. His ERA on the season, Jeff, is a cool 0.57 after yesterday's performance. Graham Ashcraft, he's going to be a big, big part of the back end of the Reds bullpen. He is clearly established as an A group member of the Reds bullpen. And just incidentally, how big are the innings from Suter and Richardson the day before? Huge. Playing into yesterday's game? Huge that they were able to go eat those innings and keep the rest of this bullpen fresh for what ended up being a rain delayed game.
That was something too that Graham Ashcraft was asked by the Reds reporting faithful there about the multi-inning guys. And he even said something that kind of struck me of not necessarily a direct critique of the past, but he was comparing the past to the present, where he was just like, it's nice because you don't have to ask 1 inning guys to throw 2 innings. That was Fernando Cruz. Fernando Cruz was not a multi-inning guy. He just pitched multiple innings because he was asked to do that. He was a very effective 1-inning guy who sometimes was asked to throw 2 innings. But now they don't have to do that. They got guys like Suter who can come in a situation and eat some innings that they just don't need to burn a high leverage guy on. But also they've got a high leverage long relief guy in Graham Ashcraft that I absolutely love. And they were asked, or they asked Graham Ashcraft about this, and they're just like, this whole idea of coming out of the bullpen and stuff like that. Have you sort of just gotten used to that? And he's like, whatever the team needs, I'm here. And I think that's a very smart answer, because it's like, you know, if maybe years down the road they want to bring me back into the rotation, that's great. I'm not telling you not to, because remember, we've seen plenty of people that told them not to. And Graham Ashcraft is not going to be one of those guys, because whenever you need the right guy to go win you a ball game, Graham Ashcraft wants to be synonymous with that. And I'm starting to put him in that category. Like, there's guys on the field that I want in that category, but I know on the mound, the Reds have a good 3 or 4 of those guys, and Graham Ashcraft's one of them.
Here's another guy I bet you didn't expect to be talking about at all today, but let's talk about Taylor Rogers for just a minute, because he was kind of like Mr. Unassuming. We kind of lumped him in Group B as I don't even know how good he is in Group B. He's like
started to wonder if the Giants
did the Giants know something, right? You know, but you know, in the last 15 games, he's pitched 13 games, 11 innings. You know, he's allowed 7 hits. He's walked 5 guys. Somehow he struck out 8. His ERA is 1.64 during that time period. And for the season, he's been doing okay. And as I guess disrespectful as we were about what his role was going to be in this bullpen, he's been eating some innings and doing a pretty good job along the way.
Yeah, perfect inning on Thursday. Want to see more of that from him, because he's really been a guy that's kind of struggled with his control so far this season. I haven't seen a lot of strikeouts, have seen more walks than we expected out of him. And I'm interested to see if he can put that all behind him. Maybe it was a slow start and he can really get going. But of course, the guy, and quite frankly, when he came in, I thought this was the perfect scenario for him. Terry Francona even acknowledged this was the best spot to get Luis May, his major league debut. He did not disappoint. He touched 101 with that two-seam / sinking fastball, whatever we want to call it, sinker, two-seamer, whatever it was. And look, I know there's going to be nights where he's probably putting 1 or 2 guys on via walk. But that stuff, I mean, I don't know how the computer
was reading that as a sinker at 99 to 101. I don't know how anybody is supposed to hit that. I just don't know. I don't know if is May Day a thing on the mainland, or is that a Hawaii?
Well, they did that. I mean, they brought him in. Yeah, May Day, May 1st. They bring
May 1st is May Day, and it is May Day.
Did the Reds just win the World Series because they put together all of the planets are aligned. We are talking about I love the fact that they've got this dude here.
It was a great situation for him to get the major league jitters out of the way. It was a total scenario where nothing was on the line except him getting to make his debut. So I love, and I think Francona is right. That was the perfect situation to pitch him in. And I hope that kind of gives him a little confidence, gives him a little feel good, and he sticks around for a while, because 101 mile an hour sinker, keep that in the big leagues. I am all for that.
He's a sinker slider guy, which typically means he throws like a 93 mile an hour sinker and like an 85 mile an hour slider. That ain't the case, because I think that slider touches 91, 92. But also, I mean, we're talking about a dude who I wrote this over at SI. I haven't shouted out CincinnatiRedsTalk.com in a while. You should go check that out. But I wrote this for his profile over at SI, that I don't want to see him touching a high leverage situation for a while. I want him to ease into this, because he's a guy that through his minor league career, he strikes out a lot of people. And he also walks a lot of people. But he also does this thing that is super valuable at Great American Ballpark, and he keeps the ball on the ground. I told you before we hit record, he hasn't allowed a home run in 2 years. I think that changes eventually, but that's a pretty cool stat.
That's a pretty cool stat. And have we really arrived in a place where a 6th inning bridge guy is throwing 101 mile an hour sinker, and then you can bring in Suter behind him, and the hitter's timing is going to be so screwed up that
that's going to be so much fun. He's throwing an 87 mile an hour fastball.
People aren't going to know what to do with themselves. This is what I know. I'm glad it was a get right and a split of this series, because after that doubleheader, and by the way, thanks for covering that show by yourself, because I had absolutely no desire to talk about any of that. I was going to spend the whole show talking about you having Laney at Bark in the Park. That was going to be the
That was
content
awesome, by the way.
that we were delivering for the Reds coverage. So I appreciate you doing that. But way to end the series on a high note and head into this national series, because I know that it's May. I know that it's the Nationals, but Jeff, this series is kind of important.
If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're seriously on all of them out there. And by the way, when you're done watching today's Locked On Reds, go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They've got you covered for every single game, every single night. And with the local hosts of Locked On, like myself and Steve, giving you our local analysis as well. Yes, Steve, like you mentioned, the Reds really need to win this series. Like, I'm talking 2 out of 3 is the expectation. And we never really want to predict or say that you must sweep. But quite frankly,
Sweeps are hard, man.
Quite frankly, it'd be nice.
It would. It would. Look, here's where we stand. I mentioned this earlier, Jeff. The Reds are 2 games over 500. They're 2 games back in the division. The schedule gets a lot harder coming up, where the Reds are really going to have to fight for their lives, and 500 baseball is going to be considered a win. And we'll have a lot of coverage on that as we get into it. But what the Reds need to do right now is something you were hitting on a couple days ago, which is stack wins right now while you can. 2 of 3 is a must. 3 of 3, I will take. Build things up, because this team, you look at the schedule and you play long ball and you look into the crystal ball of what can happen. If they go 500 through that pretty gnarly stretch heading into the All-Star break, there's 7 games heading into the All-Star break that should be cream puff. This team can go into the All-Star break 6 games over 500. They're cooking with gas. They're in contention. Obviously, a lot has to happen, but it's got to start now. And I don't want to overstate the importance of these games, but I also don't want to understate it, Jeff. It's really hard in April and May to convince people, oh, these games are important, but they are important because the hard stretches are coming. The hard work is coming, and the further you can get out in front right now, the easier it'll be to contend with that when you're playing the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and the Mets and the Phillies and the Braves, and the list goes on and on and on. The schedule gets harder. They need to win now.
That's the biggest thing with this weekend series, because the Reds are facing a team in the Nationals that, yeah, overall this team is under 500, but this team is fun. This is like the early 2023 version of the Reds. Like, they've got a lot of fun guys on this ball club, namely James Wood. James Wood is the guy, not James Woods, but James Wood is the guy that is going to make everything go. He hits the ball crazy hard, crazy far, and he does it a lot. He's already got 9 home runs on the season. He is going to be a guy that, quite frankly, I don't want to see anybody on base when he comes to the plate, because if you can do that, then you can stomach a solo home run. Because I feel like the Reds can get up on this pitching staff, not that worried about Nationals pitching. He's signed on his death certificate that everyone will send him on Monday. But I really feel like outside of James Wood, you can beat this team. Old friend Ahmed Rosario is a Washington National. He'll be here. I say old friend like he was a deep Red or something like that. He's going to be an obscure former Red. But,
are you sure about that?
Yeah, he wasn't very good.
No,
as a Red.
you're
But
not wrong. Their lineup is fun, Jeff. I mean, you look at it right now, and 6 of their 9 starters are 113 or better in OPS plus. So, they're hitting the ball. They're putting the ball in play. They're doing things. So I think where the edge here is the Reds pitching staff. So I think when you put that lineup up against this Reds pitching staff right now, I like how it looks for the Reds in this series. So, they can't afford to let down. They can't afford to take it easy. Sometimes sometimes these long homestands, Jeff, I wonder if guys kind of go in a coast mode for a while because they're home and they're comfortable. The Reds can't afford to do that. They can't take their foot off the gas. And I think that Tito's the right kind of manager to keep that from happening. So I'm going to be kind of paying attention to how this weekend series plays out. But I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be some fun baseball, and I think the Reds do have the advantage here and can put together. 2 of 3 is not a big ask, right? I'm not being unreasonable. 2 of 3 is the correct ask.
I expect 2 out of 3. Like, I think if they go 1 out of 3, and God forbid if they go 0 and 3, then we're going to have a lot of not so nice things to say on Monday. But I mean, we're talking about some pitchers this weekend that were just, I think the Reds can get up on. I mean, Mackenzie Gore is starting on Sunday. You've got Trevor Williams, who's starting on Saturday, and Trevor Williams has not had a good season so far. And then coming up here against Hunter Green tonight, you got Mitchell Parker. And while he's had a solid ERA on the season, he kind of feels like a guy that the Reds could get after. Career ERA just below 4. So the key here is get into their bullpen, because their bullpen is not very good. And then you can really start to get the runs up on the scoreboard. I want to see the Reds win this series, Steve, because to reiterate, like this stretch of games that the Reds are headed into, and this is why overall it's so hard to overreact to one game or one day, even if that one day happens to have 2 games in it. As much as everybody was down on the Reds after Wednesday for 1 run in 18 innings, you got to realize it's a long season, because I firmly believe, just like you mentioned, they get to the All-Star break 6 games over 500. We're not asking for the moon. We're not asking for them to go undefeated for the next month and a half. We're saying get to the All-Star break 6 games over 500. Then we're really looking at the expectations that we had for this team coming true. The hopes and dreams of this team being within reach. Because this is going to be such a tough stretch that if you don't take advantage of this weekend series against the Nationals, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, and you're going to have to find yourself winning some really tough series against some really good teams coming up.
Now, before we get out of here, Jeff, as you said, we haven't heard an official announcement yet. Ty Steve is coming. He's probably, by the time you're listening to this, the Reds may have announced a move. We expect him fully to be in the lineup on Friday. The question is, how do the Reds do that? We didn't really touch on that. There's a couple options, one of them being Austin Hayes. The news on Austin Hayes was not great, right? Like, they're taking it day by day, considering a possible IL stint because of his hamstring. You know how I feel about hamstrings. Just like it was true for Jonathan India, it's true for Hayes. Shut him down if you gotta, so that he's available in August and September. Let's not have a nagging hamstring injury all season. I want them to be cautious with that.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot yesterday, where I was like, I don't want the Reds to play with fire and get burned here. Like, just go ahead, put them on the IL for a couple of weeks, shut them down, and get through this stretch, especially with Tyler Stephenson coming back, where I know that Austin Hayes has been the most important hitter in this lineup so far. I think that they can get by with Tyler Stephenson returning. So there's definitely an opportunity here for the Reds to at least let him rest, where Terry Francona did not say, because Terry Francona mentioned things about Matt McLean, mentioned things about Tyler Stephenson, things about other pitchers and guys like that who had nagging injuries that they decided to put on the IL. Like, yes, it's good if he misses time now, so long as he is ready to go in August and September. And when he talked about Austin Hayes, he was just like, he's so important. We really missed him when he wasn't in this lineup. He wasn't saying things like, we could miss him now and not have him later. Like, he understands the importance of him in this lineup, but I still think they'd be much better off getting at this now, letting the hamstring heal with Tyler Stephenson returning. That could be the move. And if that is not the move, if they feel strongly enough that he can play and he doesn't need to hit the IL, I think the other move is that Tyler Callahan goes back down to AAA. Like, I love that he got to make his major league debut. And I don't even know that had he gone, 4 for 4 or 6 for 6 or 8 for 8, whatever the number is, that he would have earned a spot to stay. Like, I think that ultimately the Reds looked at this as, we could put Jeimer Candelario on the injured list and get Tyler Stephenson in the lineup. This is a win for us.
I absolutely agree. And that is where we're going to wrap up today's show. Thanks, as always, for making us your first listen every day. Make sure you check out Tim Daniel on the Reds postcast after each and every game this year, all 162. Tim's going to be there for you. Coming up on the next clock, Eastern time, Jeff and I are live and taking your questions and comments as we recap this weekend series with the Washington Nationals. Now, for your next listen, go check out Locked On MLB, as Sully gives you a daily look at the biggest stories around the league. Until then, we'll keep gathering up the news, the notes, the information, the rumors, and the reports. And we'll be right back here to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
I just want everybody to know we didn't even write that rhyme All 162. Tim is here for you.
I am a poet, and you know it.
No, I didn't know